Hey everybody, this is Dr. Wilyonson. Got a good friend of mine, Mike, here, who I've helped out with some VA work this past year. Really like sharing people's stories. I think seeing faces and really driving home the reality of what we deal with the VA as individuals, and that's how I got started doing this was my own VA claim, friends' VA claims, just by seeing how the VA did people wrong and making things difficult over time. So, without further ado, Mike, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody and tell them how we came to meet and what I did for you?
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Edwards, 51. I met Doc on the golf course, actually. Uh,
That's right. It was after a little scramble, I think we did. Isn't that right?
yeah, a little Wednesday scramble. Yeah. I got out of the Marine Corps in 97 and did not know anything about the VA process until I actually took a DOD job right at 5 years ago. And I had done an intent to file 2 years ago and heard all the horror stories and how hard it was to get through. So that one expired. And then I started another intent to file. And then I got hooked up with you after the golf course. And probably, I think we started in December, middle of December. And I ended up getting 100% permanent and total February the 1st. And then it was backdated till January. So the
That's
process
pretty
really
good.
only took like 2.5 months.
Yeah, it's amazing sometimes what I've seen the variability with the VA. You'll see some people, who have done it before with other companies or by themselves or with a lawyer, and it drags out for sometimes over a year. And I'm a real practical person. I call it like I see it. I talk a little smack, but only if it's justified. If you think about how a law firm typically gets paid, either they're representing you in court, so they're going to go to a board of appeals, they're going to charge per hour, right? Or like 95% of the cases where you're doing actual just claim work, you see the back pay, right? They'll take a percentage of back pay, they're accredited, which doesn't isn't actually always a good thing, right? It means basically, you have to dot the I's, cross the T's, and be over this underside of the VA or oversight of the VA. Now, it's not that what I do is, gray area or malicious or sneaky or against the rules. It's just there's a level of control that the VA does. And the way I structure and what my company does, and Battle Bros is my company that we work on building evidence with truth, and we don't take back pay, right? I think that's a bad model because if we had delayed it, let's say 12 months for your claim, well, yeah, you would have gotten paid a huge back pay, and then I would have gotten a cut, right? A much bigger chunk. I just don't believe in that because it just incentivizes stalling. So, I work with a lot of other companies. Semper Solutus is the one that I'm really working with now primarily, that takes it and puts the veteran first because we're all veterans. We know that system and we don't fluff people. So when we talk, we literally, Mike and I talked in a parking lot after a Wednesday golf scramble that my buddy had invited me to. And somebody had said, "Hey, you need to talk to Matt, Doc over here." And we literally, it was just organic. And what did I tell you at that meeting? I said, you just got to show me what you got and we'll make a claim. What was your
Yeah.
kind of impression on the front end, I guess?
Yep. Yeah. And then, I did my part. You guys were tremendous in your part, you know. And I refer you guys all the time. And for me, talking and listening versus what you guys actually did for me, I mean, it was seamless, you know. Like the Nexus letter and the 788 documentation package. I mean, I think that that was phenomenal, and that's what actually, you know, put me in a position to succeed.
Absolutely. And I take great pride. I try to be humble, but I also take pride in the craft. And I think that's where there's a big difference with what we do and what I do versus most of the quote competition and the other industry. Like there's a bad name for claim sharks and even some of the law firms, right? There's always the joke about lawyers kind of, getting paid and being kind of sneaky and self-serving. I say this as a matter of fact, though, is that what we present to the VA is all with intention, right? Every single document, the organization, the front end, asking it's a partnership, getting you to give me the information that I need to speak with truth and power. It's like as if you were going to stand in front of a judge, right? You wouldn't just show up and maybe click a couple buttons and submit some files scattered. You'd want that organized, right? You'd want an intro letter, you'd want a good statement, you'd want like your legal rationale, and that's really what I provide is and we provide is the structure and the organization, but also with the goods. There's a lot of companies that also will just organize what you have, give you nothing else, and then you submit it. Well, we do both really. Is my documentation as an independent medical examiner is taking evidence that's there, your personal subjective story and statements, and turning it into really a legal brief. So what I produce for people, and when you hear about Nexus letter, all this stuff, DBQs, all that, throw that out for a minute. What I do is touch all three of the major bases with the VA. And if you study this like I do, the VA wants three things: evidence, a nexus, and then a rating, right? So what I do is I take it even three further steps. Most people will just write a simple, oh, I think it's more likely than not that this person is service connected for this issue. Well, that's great. You have to have that, but that's the minimum. So that's the standard, but I go above and beyond it because I get into explaining the medical rationale of why that should be service connected. I also get into the administrative VA side. So I'll talk administratively about why the VA should rate and how they should rate it based on their 38 CFR and their precedents, right? And then thirdly, with the law. Unfortunately, this is a legal matter, right? When you file for disability, it's a legal petition, right? To be paid for something that you were injured and now can't do is like almost like workman's comp. VA compensation, I don't even like the disability term. It's more of a pension compensation benefit package. So that's what we do is cover down all three of those things with you and then get it organized and done. So I'm rambling, but that's what I do because I'm passionate about it. So, you mentioned the quality of the letter and the package. What was your experience like once you had that submitted and submitted the right way? What was your experience with the VA? What did you have to do? I mean, you said it only took like 2 months or so. What on your end? What did you see?
So for me, once I submitted everything, and it went for the initial review, the only pushback that I really had were they wanted the event, a date, and a location. And all of those I had covered with you in our paperwork, but I just had to reiterate because I had mental health claims. Um, I had an MST claim, and I just went back in and reiterated, hey, these are the times, these are the events, these are the locations. And after that, um, it was probably uh, just a few weeks, and I was in with the CNP exam, and the I actually did it TDY. I was in California, and they scheduled it for me out there. So I went to the examiner's office on a Wednesday. Excuse me, a Tuesday afternoon. I was at I want to say I was at step 5 at that point, and she had everything right in front of her. And for me, I had a notepad of everything that I felt that and situations from the Marine Corps and how it had affected me the last 30 years. And we went through my whole notebook sheet, and I just kept reiterating, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm dealing with on a regular basis. These are the events that happened to me in the Marine Corps that are still lingering with me today. especially in the mental health with the trust issues and the never stopping thoughts and all of that. And her and I spoke for approximately 40 minutes, and I did all the talking. She had all of my notes, all of my packets right in front of her. I did all of the talking, and then she said at the 40-minute mark, "Hey, I just need some routine standard questions." And I answered those. And like I say, I want to say that was a Tuesday. And by the following Tuesday, which would have been 7 days, I had my determination letter.
Outstanding. And
Yeah.
I think that, I want everybody to kind of think about that for a second. It seems commonsensical, but I would say most people, especially without guidance and without clarity, go into these exams and they have a bad experience. I think we can all attest to that. I personally, when I went to a CMP exam for myself back in the day when I was getting out, I did a BDD claim. So I did it the last 6 months of getting out. And I didn't go in as a, oh, I'm a doctor, oh, I'm an officer. I literally just my name, my rank, like I just walked in, nothing special. Went through, get in line, shut up, and trust the system, right? And I was kind of shocked because it was amazing to me how fast the CMP examiners went. But in my case, it wasn't for my benefit, right? It's like, well, all these things are claimed and you didn't really examine it. And as a physician, obviously, I knew what it would take to really, even just decently cover down and examine those issues, or at least talk about those issues. And they didn't really do it. So that was really what opened my eyes to the whole system was this is kind of a sham on the VA side. But I want to break down what you did, right? And, again, I'm not going to take credit for it because the credit belongs to you, right? You had trust to know that you needed help in an area in the system because you heard the rumors, been through it yourself, realized it. So that's big, right? Trusting when you have trust issues, which I hate to break it to you and everybody else, but we all do, right? Especially in the military. I haven't met anybody that's super trusting of that system after you've been in it. And God forbid if you've been through really tough things like you have, Mike, and even me, it's even harder. But then you get in, and what we did together was it's not so much just, oh, educational, checking boxes. It's let's get your story on paper a couple times prior to that CMP exam. And then also, so by you writing it, thinking about it, connecting the dots yourself, and actually taking notes, I mean, you said it yourself. That probably really helps you in that exam. And then you also have the verification of it and more of that kind of broad overview and summary that they can look at from me. Right. So it's like 2 points, it's a double hit phenomenon that really helps people. And going into those exams is important. And that's where I think we also differ in my philosophy on it. For a while, I used to kind of try to be the judge, jury, executioner of because when you go to a CMP exam, you get a DBQ form, right? So there'll be companies and law firms that will send you to their doctors for these DBQ forms, but the VA is wising up to that, right? Now, I think that the CMP examiners that the VA contracts out is kind of hit or miss and typically miss. But trying to short circuit that system and be that person for you actually is not beneficial to most people. I found that stepping into that precursor role, just like in your case, of let's get it all on paper, let's create an independent medical opinion, an IMO. Within that IMO, we can talk about one issue, three issues, 100 issues if they're there, right? And some of that subjective, personal statements, the things that I use to help you kind of get that out kind of together. And then, my own opinion and how it's all connected, right? So getting that on paper and submitted is critical to success. And then when that CMP examiner saw you, she probably briefly reviewed that and go, wow, this is on paper. And you showed up, like Mariano Rivera in the ninth inning and sealed the deal.
Yeah, I had done a lot of research based off of the information that you had provided me, right? So, and I think that that needs to be emphasized to a lot of other veterans that you have to do the work yourself, right? So I'm giving you the information, you're organizing it in a readable format for the VA, which is what they want, right? And I don't really think that a lot of people can format it that way. We can say our own thoughts, we can write all our stuff out, but we need someone like you and your team so you can put it in the format that they can read because the VA looks at things differently, you know. But then myself personally, I had researched all of it. I had gave you what my information was, and then I read all of the briefing that you had, and then I was like, well, damn, I have this. Well, then that olive branched out to this, and then so forth and so on. So then, for me and myself in the mental health claim that I did, it all flowed together once I was able to see it. You know, I opened up and gave you all of my details, and then you put it the way that it needed to be. But that really opened my eyes into, well, shit, I have more. I suffer from all of this. Well, that goes right back to here, and then so that's when I just started writing notes, and then I don't want to say checking a box, but I had my own personal checklist, and I wanted to make sure that everything that I said highlighted or piggybacked off what we had already put out there.
Exactly. It's kind of it's an edit, review, edit, rinse, repeat process because again, it's not that I told you what you have, what to claim. There was no gimmicks. I came when we first got together, I said, give me everything you have, right? Also, here, answer these questions in your own words by yourself. Be thorough. Tell me everything. And with that, then I can craft, like you said, kind of that overview, summary, conceptual framework. I give it back to you, and then you run with it, right? It's like honing down and focusing the argument into what's necessary. And then your own research is important too. With all the tools today, whether it's chat gpt or enhanced ai or gemini and all this stuff, there's no reason why people shouldn't understand the va rating system and these diagnoses and how they work, right? And I say, I'm a big believer in being an honest dealer as the client, as the veteran. That's important, and I think always doing the right thing and telling the truth and not exaggerating is where I draw the line. Like, you need to be always just telling the truth, and most people will do that, right? But then with what we built now, since you've come on board at Semper Solutus, always a solution is what that company name means, has built an entire, basically internal AI system that keeps your information private. So if you wanted to get in, because if you go on Chat GPT and throw your records in there, well, the whole world has them technically, I guess, hidden. But like that's an open source, right? So what they have crafted is an ability to have not only just like a chat GPT function, but like hone down into the resources that are accurate, right? So you can search, hey, with this information I just uploaded to you, what do you think I should be rating? Here's my symptoms and like what are like teach me about this. It's called Compass. It's amazing. And it's a internal AI model that also uses select sources. And then so like the tools that we're creating with some of the new, agentic AI systems is not going to replace the people, the guidance, the communications, because it is confusing. And you do need to bounce it off people, the filings and the information. Uh, but with those tools, I think the sky's the limit. And, you know, what you did in that short amount of time is really the tip of the iceberg because I see it a lot. And there's no shortcuts to success with the VA. And that's what I try to tell people, that I like to under promise and overperform because that's how I am as a surgeon, right? If you come in and you tore your ACL on the football field, and I'm the guy who comes in and says, "Oh, like, no worries, I got you. You'll be back to good next season, and you're going to rush for 2,000 yards. I got you." That's not a great way to be, because the truth is that what if you got an infection in your knee? What if you got stiff? What if there was a complication? What if there was more to it? And I promised you on the front end that you're going to rush for 2,000 yards next season, and you didn't, right? You should always be talking about the risks and the benefits of everything. And that's what I do with every single person, non-negotiable, is we talk about the possibilities and we look
Hmm.
at it in a holistic 35,000-foot view. I see a lot of people that, maybe didn't have the severity of the mental health claims that you did, where there's a component of that. But then I'm saying, yes, but what else? You have, a bad shoulder. You have these other medical issues that may or may not be actually related to your mental health. Maybe that one, let's say you had a back issue that now you've got hip problems. Well, maybe that hip is indirectly because of your gait, the way you walk, as a biomechanical chain of your back indirectly caused it. Like that's the way you have to think about these things because that's how the VA thinks about these things. So, I'm passionate about it because I think, veterans, anybody who signed the dotted line and served, whether they deployed combat or not, were willing to, right? And so I don't look at this model, the VA benefits compensation disability system, as pure disability. It's not like Social Security disability. It's so different. So for those out there that think, oh, people are cheating the system and that, oh, how can he still work or how can he still play golf? The reality is that this is a compensation benefit package because you can't do the same things that you would normally do and there is a dysfunction. And you mentioned in that CMP exam, the key is functional limitations and impact, right? I don't play victimization culture. And just because you're not in a psych ward or, you know, walled up in your room and on the verge of suicide or death doesn't mean that you don't suppress it and hide it and that you're not suffering, right? So again, it's playing that middle ground of telling the truth because I find that most people will do the classic, "Oh, I'm good. Yeah, here's all this bad stuff, but I'm okay." But are you? Like at what point do you start to advocate for yourself? And I'm proud of what we do there because sometimes it just takes a little nudge with information and talking about those issues to really, unroof the scab of all the things, physical and mental and medical. And, the sky's the limit. And with what we have at our fingertips now, there's no issue, whether it be obscure cancers caused potentially by exposures or sunlight. If you're on a ship, if you got melanoma, we had a gentleman week or two ago that had been fighting for his metastatic melanoma. Like for everybody, that's like the worst type of skin cancer you can get. And is on a ship for however many decades. Well, common sense says you don't need a medical degree to say, well, that probably got caused because of the, being on a ship, deck for that long. Had metastasized to other organs, and he was like struggling. And so many other companies and people and VSOs and the VA said, well, it's not service connected. More likely not service connected. So had given up on that a little bit. We saw that during his screening and said, hey, like, this is your biggest medical issue. My God, you have metastatic melanoma, right? So we got actually that service connected and rated. So God forbid if that ever took a turn, and he didn't get to 100% right away, right? He's still not at 100%, but it's not always about the 100%. That's great for compensation. But let's say he took a turn for the worse and it metastasized to his brain and he passed away. Well, now his family can be compensated forever because he passed away from a service connected issue. So it's not like, oh, 100% P&T or bust. Yeah, that's nice. But we got to go after everything and think about you as a person. So I'm ranting, I'm on my sermon pulpit here, but that stuff matters to me. And that's, I think, what our difference is.
Yeah, like, you know, I fell into that category for 30 some odd years. Hey, I'm a man. I'm good. I'm okay. You know, deep down I wasn't. You're just passing that buck from day to day. And then once I really came to terms with it myself and applied what I knew I was going through, I wholeheartedly didn't think that I was going to go from a 0% rating to 100 P&T. That was a shocker to me.
In two
But
months.
yeah,
Crazy,
in
isn't it?
2.5 months, that was a total shocker. It's also, that's a life changing thing, right? Last Saturday, my son just graduated high school. At the 100%, I have the Champ VA for him. He also gets the educational benefit. I have a 16-year-old, same thing. My wife has rheumatoid arthritis really bad, so our medical prescriptions They were through the roof. And now, because I have the VA compensation, it helps not only me and my kids, it also helps my wife. And I think that there is a piece of the puzzle that people never hear about. You know, I've been
I
going to the
totally
VA.
agree.
I've been going to the VA for 17, 18 years. And at no point in time did any of the doctors or anyone I saw say, "Hey, have you ever thought about applying?" Like that was never. It was, let's refer you to this. Let's change. Let's up your medication on this. Let's change your medication here. But it was never. It was never brought up that, hey, you can file for a compensation claim, and if you get it, then it opens the door to so much more that we can do for you. Like, since 2015, like that was never told to me.
It's one of those things as well, and again, I try to be middle of the ground and not too conspiratorial and or too, butterflies and rainbows, right? And I certainly lean towards the conspiratorial. There's a cabal, manipulative side of the government in general, but certainly with the military and the VA, and I say that from experience, not from third party, reflecting what other people think. I think that myself. I saw this system, the tip of it, when I was active duty as a medical officer in the Navy. I saw this with how they did their IDES system. So basically their med board system. And I realized when I took, those reins and those roles in an operational capacity that, here's a list of, in a pretty big command, 700 Marines, 30 of them are on limdu and there's 12 undergoing medical board status. And it seemed to me that it was handed off to me by my predecessor who maybe didn't care as much. I'll just put it that way. It was just kind of sucking up to the CEO and just wanted to do the job and get out, that it was just names on a spreadsheet. And that kind of made me question. It's like, well, what really is a med board? I mean, I could tell you what a med board is colloquially. Oh, it's how they get separated from the military because of a medical issue. But what goes into it? And so I looked into it. Like, is this important? Does this matter to the Marine or the sailor that I'm taking care of? And I uncovered it just because I was curious that it really matters. So for those who were undergoing med boards, that basically, let's just take an example. Oh, I can't deploy and I'm not fit for full duty because, let's say, of my mental health. We'll use that one. Physical is an easy one. We'll use mental health. Like I can't go because I'm falling apart. I'm having trouble, my family, my stress at my job, like I'm cracking, I'm not really deployable, right? And that's a fair statement, right? So maybe you get some counseling, maybe you talk to the chaplain, but there's not a lot of documentation, right? Because who really trusts to lay that stuff out? You don't want to get in trouble, right? You don't want to lose, your weapons, privileges. You don't want to lose your freedom and your MOS. Like it's common sense why you would kind of not be able to do it. But then they go to a med board initiated by their medical officer. And if they don't have that, just like a VA claim, if they don't have it teed up with evidence, they're going to fail. Like they're going to go to that board and the board's going to say, they have some stuff here subjectively. There's not a lot of evidence. Nah, this person's fit for full, like fully deployable, go. And then if they can't do it, right, they get admin sept. And for all of us out there that have served, that's not a good thing. Like that is a benefits limiting life changer. When you get administratively separated from the military and not medically separated or medically discharged, that's what happens in a successful med board, right? But I saw a lot of ones that basically they said, nope, like back to duty. And then this person either struggled and stayed in and suffered even more and got worse, or they got screwed by the long dick of the Navy and the law, right? And that bothered me. And that's where I learned the VA disability system, because those that did get approved for med boards, then they start their out processing medical process, which is like a year if everybody's been through that. But that's where you concurrently do the VA side. So I saw that system for what it is and the benefits. And it wasn't just about the compensation that caught my eye, like, holy cow. But then you mentioned it, Champ VA. if you get 100% P&T, your dependents, your spouses, all of the dependents get secondary healthcare insurance forever, as long as you live and then beyond potentially. Meaning, but if you have insurance, it's a secondary insurance. And it doesn't mean like, oh, like I don't need that. For what your primary insurance doesn't cover, Champ VA will cover the rest. And God forbid you have a kid get sick or a spouse gets sick or has chronic issues like you mentioned with rheumatoid arthritis, all these problems. It I don't think people understand how valuable that benefit is. Like it could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in going bankrupt. It's like the ultimate insurance policy is having the rich out there, they have multiple insurances. They're not just, oh, I got Blue Cross Blue Shield or oh, I got TRICARE. Nah, they have stacked up policies because they can afford it. Most of us, 99.9%, can't afford that. I know I can't. Champ VA covers that down and it's a benefit you earn. So that's why I'm so passionate about 100% P&T. Yeah, if you're making 4,000 plus dollars a month in compensation for the rest of your life, do the math. That's a retirement. That's a damn good retirement. And it goes up with COLA. So, cost of living adjustments go up and it's tax free for now. So that's another thing. Let's keep the government out of taxing Social Security. They need to fix that, and cutting down on veterans benefits because that's probably coming, and we got to fight and stand as a unit. But you get into the VRE program. That's another one. I think Champ VA and VRE, the vocational rehab program that the VA does, are like the two diamonds in the rough. You can basically not touch your GI Bill, and due to your disabilities, let's say you were a carpenter. You were trained to be a carpenter or a mechanic, even better, mechanic. And you got debilitating wrist arthritis from being a mechanic in the Navy for X number of years, or a motor T Marine. Love those guys. I was with a wing support squadron for a while, but then they get out of the military and maybe they do it for a little bit, but then they can't really do it forever. And they start breaking down. And if they get at least 30% or more, it used to be 30%, it may be lower now, disability rating overall, and they have a disability for their wrist, but the military trained them to be a mechanic in that example. Well, they can't be a mechanic anymore because you have the disability benefits on board. You can get the VA to pay to retrain you in basically whatever you want. So vocational rehab, VRE, it's unbelievable. People will go to law school, get their MBA, get their college degree, get, some other type of training, be a pilot, whatever, be a counselor, be a mental health professional that they're passionate about. And they'll get retrained and not even touch their GI Bill. So then they can send their kids to college with their GI Bill, which is probably what they intended, a lot of people. And it's just, you know, it gives me chills because it's not just about compensation and money. And I think that's what gets marketed the most. If you go on Facebook or you go on YouTube, Instagram, you name it, it's all about getting that money, getting the money from the VA, your monthly compensation. Oh, like it's so great. It is, but that's just one component of it. And Mike hit, right on the nail on the head there.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit the money factor is, I mean, it's fucking fantastic, right? Let's just call it what it is, right?
Amen.
But for me at my age, right, the secondary insurance and all of that, because for me, I'm on the backside of life, right? So 10 more years and I'm off to retirement land. You know, I I don't have to worry. I'm not worried about, what like for a long time my thought was I'm the breadwinner in the house. And I think there's a lot of stay-at-home moms now, right? Because everything's so damn expensive, right? Well, what happens if something happens to me? How are we going to afford this for me? You know, so the benefits side of it, and I'm more talking about like the health benefit, right? Because as we get older, our health goes to shit. We all know that, right? I now have a sense of security that now I'm not worried about, hey, if something's wrong, do I just put it off because I don't have the money in the bank? I can't make the copay. I can't, if I have this surgery, it's going to be $25,000 and I'm responsible for 20% of that. Like, where's that coming from? Now I have another added monthly bill. So the health benefit wise for me is phenomenal, right? And I touched on it a little while ago. My wife, my wife is 46 and her RA is so bad that she has to give herself a shot, right? Now we have the security that I know that my wife's going to be taken care of. I don't have to stress about where the money is coming from to get her the care that she needs. And
It,
same thing with my sons. My sons are 16 and 17. One's going to be 18. And this has afforded them an opportunity that I didn't have, you know? So me filing my claim for me, I feel like has also set up my kids for success.
Absolutely. It not just from the example you set in the financial stability of compensation in healthcare, but again, we could do this all day, and we have the resources too at sempersolutus.com, and through our app. We actually have an app too we're developing and is up and running now. And that compass thing I was telling you about, it's not like a one and done high five. All right, next. We want to keep people with access to the questions that you have in these benefits. And that's not just to sound nice or empathetic. We are nice and we are empathetic. When a guy like Mike or anyone gets a rating increase or to the 100%, I hope they stay on board and use our resources that you paid for, right? Not a lot, but like whatever. Like we want you to share that because it's like the golden rule and the butterfly effect had a baby. Like if we do good, and it's our own community, we're all veterans that run this. If we do good for our community, we can help. And the reason I say that, like in our resources, is that think the DIC. I think it's chapter. God, I'm going to misstep and sound stupid. Either 34 or 35, right? So it's basically like, or the DEA, excuse me, DEA. It's basically the same thing when you're 100% P and T. So this is the caveat. Why 100% P and T is so important is that you basically qualify as if you had died in combat with this chapter, right? So imagine somebody dies overseas. Well, they get extra benefits to send their kids to college outside of the GI Bill, right? So in addition to the VRNE for you as an individual, which you can't transfer, the GI Bill, which you still keep, you don't lose your GI Bill when you get PNT. You can also, I believe it's 36 months right now. I think there's ways to maybe flex that to 48. There's always loopholes with the government and their little system, so people don't use it. But one of your kids, for example, and you need to look into this, we can talk offline a little more detail, but on our website, especially start using, I can send it to you after this because you were kind of in the early days before we had it all teed up. But you can get 36 months. I think that's the minimum or the max, or the max out of college tuition paid for one of your dependents because of PNT. And they'll get paid the E5 or E6 stipend. So it's not quite like the post 9/11 GI Bill, but it's more in tune with like the Montgomery. But they'll also pay, it's kind of a blended hybrid. So it's actually better than both. You'll get paid, wherever they go to, they'll get paid whatever, zip code BAH is for that rate. And then they'll also be able to have their school paid for. Like, hello, and you're still living, right? So it's not like they have to do it all alone. You still have that compensation. You got to use it. Or maybe your wife wants to get retrained in something that's more suitable to her. Like, I get so excited and passionate and on my pulpit about it because when I say it's life changing, it's not to fluff people up. It's life changing and it's all there and it's all earned. So it's not like working with people, ambulance chasing, trying to sue people. It's the exact opposite. It's taking care of the best people in our community. For the civilians, veterans are always highly regarded, right? But we're all veterans. So it's our community of veterans. How many times have I heard thank you for your service, or people, whatever, company would say, "Oh, we salute our heroes," and then only in words, right? And if you're anything like me, and probably you too, when somebody thanks you for your service, it's kind of a cringy moment sometimes, especially when you maybe insincere. It's like, oh, thank you for your service. It's like, appreciate that, everybody. But what are we doing as a society? And I put pressure on the veteran community, and there's a lot of good people out there in the social media, influencer world, corporate America, in government. If we don't advocate for our own and help our own, what the hell are we doing? Right? So I'm passionate about it. It's like, why are more people not beating the drum? And you have some on Capitol Hill doing it, like the Richard Starr Act for combat vets, all this stuff. Why are people not educated about the DEA? Why are people not educated about Champ VA? Why are people not educated about the property tax exemptions for, certain states? It's just like I land on, they don't want you to know about it so that you don't use the benefit and they save money, right?
Yeah, so that's funny that you mentioned the property tax, right? Because like I knew a l- you still there, Matt? There you go.
I'm
I
here.
knew a little bit about it, but not enough to speak on it, right? Well, I just refinanced my house. And when I went into the closing, you know, my mortgage lender, she's a former Marine, right? So I'm in North Carolina, she's in North Carolina. So once all of my package and everything was accepted and the rate dropped enough to make sense, I called my mortgage lender. Hey, just got just got P&T. See the rates are dropping. Mike, that's awesome. This is what that entitles and helps you to do. Now you don't have to pay your PMI. So, and I'm like,
Exactly.
that's awesome. Then I get into my closing, you know, I get into closing and the attorney, hey, see right here that you're a veteran. You're not paying your PMI. Don't forget when you leave here to go by the tax office, you know, North Carolina, I took the form, had it filled out, took it back to, I'm saving $45,000 a year in property taxes.
Exactly. And it's all these steps. And again, Mike's on top of it. People like me are on top of it. A lot of people are on top of it. It's still work, right? But it's important. And we have to press our community even after you get 100% P&T. I wonder, this would be a great study and just a metric. How many people have P&T and are not at least using property tax exemptions? Probably a lot. You basically just go to the county registrar and get her done, and I did that as well. And again, 40 something $1,000 in North Carolina. If you're in Florida or other states, certain states, you pay zero in property taxes for your primary residence. Like, folks, like, wake up. Like, this stuff's there, and hopefully it's there forever. I don't trust, the long-term administrations, even whether it's red, blue, or purple, to necessarily take care of us. We have to advocate and make sure our people know about this. So I make a charge to everybody, kind of as practice, not as a gimmick, to charge people like you and everybody I talk to that has learned this, to tell people about it, right? Not necessarily just, oh, sign up with Semper Solutus or Battle Bros and Doc, and he's great. Yes, send people my way and I will treat them just like I treated you, and I'll shoot them straight, no bullshit. But more importantly, help them with this stuff, right? Make a video like this video right here. Talk to people on the phone, your friends, the people you come across somebody that's a veteran, say, hey, what's your VA rating? Oh, I'm 100% P&T, living the good life. Have you done this, this, and this? Oh, I didn't even know about that. Oh, yeah, I heard about it. I haven't done it. And it brings me back to when I got out of the military in 2023. I did over 10 years. I was done with it. Like, I just, not burned out, just work, just the toxicity of woke Navy. Couldn't handle it anymore. Drove me nuts. Bad leadership across the board, really. I mean, there were good leaders there, here and there, but, I was just, get me out of here. Inefficient. It's awful. It's killing me. And I sat in one of those capstone TAPS classes, whatever they want to call it. I'm sure the different branches call it different things. And it was supposed to be 5 days. I was able to, pull the officer card and basically have to go for one day because they wanted me to keep working in the clinic, which is fine. I like seeing patients rather than sitting to PowerPoints. So the one day I was there would happen to be the day where they supposedly were going to go over the benefits and like the must know stuff for getting out. I shit you not, and I think this is by script. They had a civilian guy come in. He was a VA guy, but he, when talking about VA disability benefits, talked for 8 minutes. I literally timed it. I'm not making that number up. He talked about VA disability and VA benefits, all of it, not just compensation, for 8 minutes, and basically said, go to the VA website. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I didn't, at that point, I didn't care, Mike. I didn't care about getting high rating benefits. I'm like, get me to dry land. You know what I mean? Like the shit I'd been through, like it's not about work. I couldn't do the work. I couldn't stand the people at the top. Loved my patients, 98% of them, the Marines, sailors. I ended up taking care of a lot of airmen and soldiers as well, where I was, and I loved them, but I could not wait to get out. So I was blinded. And I think a lot of people, if you're still in the military, maybe listen to this, you just get this tunnel vision of like survival, get me out, and I'll figure it out on the other side. I will be the first to tell you that the power is in starting early. If you're still in the military right now, you need to start working. You need to start working on organization of your evidence, like we talked about with Mike earlier, about getting your evidence, your medical records digitally, and make sure they're there. Look through it, do the homework. If you have something that's clearly a problem, that you haven't gotten worked up while you're in service, talk to your medical officer, ask for a referral, go get seen. Mental health, physical, medical, all of it. Now, do the right thing. Don't try to be, the sick call warrior that's missing out on, dropping pack and all that bullshit, because I've seen that too, right? Don't do that. Be respectful, do regular appointments, you know, a couple years out. I'm talking years. Do it the last 2 years or so if you know you're getting out, or less, at least the last year, and get your documents on paper, preferably digital, that you have. Don't trust the MTF or the clinic to give it to you the last week, because that's what they'll do. They'll say, oh, when you get out, we'll give you your records. Ask your provider, hey, can I get a copy of those notes from today? Or go to the front desk. Be nice to the nurse, respectful, the corpsman. Ask for your records. If you're going to PCS, God, please get your records before you PCS or move or do this stuff or deploy. It's better to have repeats of stuff than miss stuff. I see that in 80% of people I talk to. It's like, this happened, but shit, I was in Afghanistan, and like, the forms we fill out paper, and they told me it was going to come back and it was going to be good. I never checked. I'm getting out now. This is 8 years later, and it's not there. And like, that's
Yeah.
the pivotal documentation. I'm talking like serious shit, not like, oh, I stubbed my toe, like IED exposure, like death, horrible shit, like awful things that were documented that now aren't documented. And if you think that the VA is going to give you the benefit of the doubt automatically, they won't. Legally, they will, but that's where I come into play. They have to give you benefit of the doubt, but you got to play their game. It's a shitty statement to make, that this is a game, but it's a game that saves them money. They're bureaucrats. Let's accept it. Doesn't mean we hate them. They're playing their game to save billions of dollars every year on their end. Totally understand that. It's our job as a community and as a company and as an individual too, to help you play that game with truth and realize what the game is. The game is evidence, clarity, nexus opinions, and filing it right, and performance that's in line with what the reality is of these C&P exams, and good correspondence with the VA. Like you said, they reach out, they want something, you better do it, and you better do it right, or they're going to auto deny it. Going through that makes all the difference, and you need to start early. So if you think waiting till you get out and then addressing your problems is going to work, you're fighting an uphill battle. Now you're playing, it's chess. I always say that to people. The VA disability claims, they will sell you at Capstone, TAPS, whatever they want to call it, um, as it's checkers, it's chess, it's multi-step things, it is chess. You don't always get it right away. You got to have the goods. Doing BDD claims, benefits delivery upon discharge, is the way. If you have the capability to do your VA first submission in that last 6 months, I think it's from the 180 day from discharge to the 90 days. So if you wait till 89 days or closer to your discharge, you can't do this. That 180 to 90 window is the way to do it. But before that 180 day, you got to have your evidence. They're not going to get it for you. right?
Yeah.
You can get buddy statements. You can go see doctors. You can see us. Like there's no conflict of interest if you're a couple years out from service to talk to Semper Solutus, talk to me, and I will guide you and our team will guide you on what you should do. Now we're going to shoot you straight. We're not going to tell you how to game a system. We're not going to, make you go do things that are not true. We have a strict bullshit censor. Like you tell us what problems you have and we tell you how to get them documented and how to get them addressed, right? We're not the CMP examiners. We don't want to be because we lose the power. If we're truly independent, which we are and I am, that's the power. And that's what Mike experienced, is that I didn't come in and say, hey, I got a shortcut, I'm going to give you this, that, and the other, and then, hey man, we'll get it done. No, it's the opposite. I have to maintain my ethical purity and distance as an independent provider to make it work. And I know that's a lot, but that is the difference. That's why we're successful. We don't have a shortcut. Everybody's IMO, the independent medical opinion with Nexus statements within it. If you're claiming 10 things, you're going to probably get 10 different Nexus rationales. I've made rationales that I say, hey, I don't think this is service connected. I'm honest. Like that's my like credo. Now I'm gonna weigh it in your favor. If it's a 50-50 decision, I'm just gonna state that. The VA will then rule in your favor. But some things are like, this is absolutely service connected, or this is more likely than not service connected. This is less likely than not service connected, or this is proximately caused more likely than not because of this. So I'm rambling, but like the sooner if you can do this on your own, please do it. That's fine. Like go to a VSO. You will find they're not as helpful as you think. That's why the military pushes you to the local VSO. In my conspiracy theory, is to minimize your ratings, make it real easy on the front end, and then you'll be disgruntled with the results. And then you're fighting a chessboard where you've lost your knight and your queen, right? We want to play chess when you got the full board. So the sooner people get on board with us, take the leap of faith, please, like listen to Mike, listen to other people, start at least at minimum, even if you don't talk to us, get your records, start thinking about where the gaps are. What would you say, Mike, if you were to talk to anybody that's still in service or maybe freshly out? Like, what's your honest, non-scripted? None of this is scripted, guys. What would you tell people on the like right now that you're talking to?
So I actually, so I have a government job, right? In the last year alone, I've done TDY in Japan, California, Hawaii, Texas, um, currently in Utah, right? And every Marine that I've worked with, because the platform that I work on is a small community, right? The Marines are not that big. Like we're big in voice, we're big in ego, we're not big in numbers. But everywhere I go, it's the same song and dance, right? And it alludes to why you got out, right? So I hear the kids. I'm 51, so I call them kids, right? So I hear the kids. It's the same shit every duty station. I'm getting out, man. The management sucks. Communication sucks. I just want to see what's on the outside for me. And I tell them all the same. Okay, cool. So you're doing your pump and you're getting out. Yep. What have you prepared for? Well, what do you mean? Well, I know that your pack every time you hump it is 100 pounds. I know that you've not been here. Let's just say you're doing an 8-year enlistment, right? I know in 7 of these years, because everyone's getting out in a year, they always make that determination. This is the last year. Okay, well, I know you haven't been perfectly healthy for these 7 years. What do you have documented? Have you been? Well, no. Well, why not? Well, I don't want to be that guy. You take care of yourself. Be don't worry about the socio status or whatever. Take care of yourself. And I tell all the Marines the same thing. Document, document, document. The sooner you can get it in your records now, it's going to help you. You're not behind the 8 ball. You already have you're not going to have everything you need, but you have a baseline. You have already set the wheels in motion while you're in. And I tell all the guys the same thing. If you plan on getting out, make sure that you have everything that's wrong with you because of you being in documented now.
and in hand. That's the other thing I've learned is that they'll miss that step. Is that they'll go get seen, they'll get it documented, but they don't have the documents. Physically, get your documents, turn them into PDFs, get that disc printed, look at it, see what's missing, see if you can get it while you're still in. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people that said, I'm trying to track down records from this station, that they're gone. Those records are gone. Like, let's be honest. As much as I'd like to say that they did the right thing and kept them and are organized, get those records in hand at minimum.
I agree.
Well, Mike, I appreciate the time. I think it's one of those things where, I am biased because of what I do and where I work and what I believe in. But I think that's a good bias for people to have on their side. My goal is to try to reflect what we are as a culture in our company. And, Semper Solutus, right? It's Latin, always a solution. And that's an important name. That's not just a random thing. There's a solution for every inequity and problem in the veteran community if it's approached tactically. And I say that not to be cheeky about, tactical advantage. Like, the truth is that we are a force multiplier for these situations. Everybody in our company knows what they're doing, has done their own claims and have been very successful, as well as helped. I'm telling you, across the board, thousands. And, we add it up. It's not to brag, but we look at it like, I'm getting gray in the hair and white bearded and all my guys. And like, we just know this stuff, and we've learned it, and now we have the organization and the team that keeps that mission first. So, for the young guys out there, like, this is not just a cheap sales ploy between me and Mike. It's the opposite. It's a spill your guts kind of situation where you can do anything you want. It is wise. Listen to the old wise guys here. It is in your best interest to get help early, at least at minimum, do research, my God, and get your records. We can help people. Semper Solutus, what I do, we can help people that are still in, that are fresh out, or that have been out 40 years. Literally took care of a Vietnam vet situation last week. So we can handle everything. There's always a solution to these problems. And I mean that. And that's like our credo, but we live by it. We don't promise you things that we can't deliver on. We tell you the truth, and we stick with you and make it work. So, I'm real proud of what we've built here. And, I'm proud of Mike, again, going playing golf on a Wednesday night, which I don't really do. Like, I don't think I played on a Wednesday scramble since, but that's my charge to everybody, is just be open and available to help people. And, I'm happy to help anybody out there. And I know Mike is too. And, you know, just go forth and prosper, Mike, and just keep asking questions. Use our resources. I'll text you, some of those newer resources that, maybe have
Cool.
been, and they're pretty recent since we built them out, but I'll get you, kind of a cache to use, and share and use yourself, and really keep maximizing your benefits that you earned.
Yeah. And like I say, for anyone that's hasn't taken the step, wholeheartedly encourage them to reach out to you guys. You guys treated me with honesty, respect, everything was full of integrity. You know, as you just said, like, I opened up, I laid it out there, and I think that if more people will take that step, that leap of faith, right? Trusting in you guys because you're not going to bullshit them, right? So, and that's what, if anyone could take anything away from your and I interview here, is take that leap of faith, open up. You guys are honest, respectful, utmost integrity in what you do, and it it'll take care of itself. You do have to put in the work yourself. It's not one stop shop. You will have to put in the work. But wholeheartedly, if I hear anyone that says, "Yeah, VA's jerking me around," and I'm like, "Hey, maybe you need to take a step and talk to these guys. If you're
Nothing,
having
nothing.
issues, if you're having issues and you're stalled out, seek the additional help. It, you know, and I've had several coworkers that have reached out to you guys and they're all ecstatic. You know what I mean? Hey, I sent one of the team an email. 5 minutes later, they were emailing me back. One guy that I sent to you guys, and we work together every day. And he was like, "When the hell do these guys sleep?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "It doesn't matter if it's 7 in the morning or it's at 11 o'clock at night. If I have a question or anything, I reach out and they're on it." That was his exact words. They are on it.
We are on it, and I take great pride, and I appreciate that endorsement because we try to do the right thing behind the scenes, and we don't necessarily brag about it. So, I like these kind of conversations because occasionally you got to step out from fighting because that's what we do. We fight and we grind and we grit, but we're people. We're all veterans too. I think that's so important. We speak veteran because we are veteran. It's a different language, right? Not just the system, but how we think and talk. And we real talk with people. You need to do this. I'm telling you, do this. Sometimes we haven't heard that in a while, right? Like, do this. You're paying me, paying us to help us help you. We will treat you like an equal and with respect, but we're not going to do the little soft spoken, make you like us conversations. Nobody likes that anyway. So we tell you the truth straightforward, we get it done, and we'll be there for you, and we're on it. So I appreciate it, Mike, and God bless you and the family. And please don't be a stranger. I'd love to keep up with you and, you know, keep referring us people, keep helping people, and anything I can do to help with you or your family, your friends in the future, I am more than willing to do,
I
obviously.
appreciate that, Doc. Oh, whenever I can get back to the East Coast.
Hey, man, well, enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. Probably a little less humid out there.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I appreciate everything, man. And if anyone's watching the video and needs the assistance, Doc and his team are top notch. Please reach out to them.
Appreciate it, Mike. Have a great day, man. I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right, man. See you.
Take care.